week out, but I have a vague idea, and it'll build and grow over time. But there's a great meditation compendium that comes from this tradition that I have the good fortune to be a part of, and it's called Vijnana Tantra. And Vijnana it offers us 112 possibilities or gateways, dharanas, centering techniques that will lead to the experience of the heart. And we can't practice all 112 of them. I'll tell you why later, but we can't practice all of them together, but we can practice a lot of them. Yes, those who know can tell those who don't. We can practice a lot of them together, and to experiment with these meditative techniques, it's a great joy. And the vision of Vijnana it implies an infinite amount of centering techniques, that your whole life could be practiced, that your whole life you could keep the company of the truth, your whole life you could be in satsang, you could be near the way things really are, not the way the mind would tell us things are. And the essential dharana that comes to us from Vijnana is the Hamsa technique, the meditation on the breath and its subtle sound. And we'll explore that dharana in just a moment. But when we get together, we'll chant some opening invocation mantras, and then we'll sing a wonderful hymn that comes from the Tantras, from Rudra Yamala Tantra, called Kundalini Stavaha. It invokes the energy of upliftment, the Shakti. And then we'll explore the dharana, then we'll chant Om Namah Shivaya, and then we'll meditate. So that's what's on tap for tonight. And this doesn't have to look any particular way. What's important is that you're comfortable. So if at any point you need to adjust the way you're seated, please adjust. If you need to stand, if you need to lay down, if you need to walk around the room, if you need to laugh or scream or cry or whatever it is that you need to do, you have full license to do it. As we explore the dharana together, this isn't a very formal teaching, and I want us to be able to ask questions and try things on and share our experience together. None of us are ever going to be able to let another person know what the interiority of our heart is like. We go through great attempts to try and share what's going on in our inner world with other people, but unless you say it explicitly, we'll never know. And so to practice being courageous, revealing our heart in this space together as we experiment with meditation, it's a noble act, it's a worthwhile endeavor. So I hope that that we'll share also, because yoga essentially means me and you. It's not just me, So we'll do it. We'll sing our opening invocation mantras, and then we'll chant the Kundalini Stavaha. There are a lot of people here in the room today who have studied the recitation of this hymn quite a bit with me. If this is your first time chanting in Sanskrit, never fear. If you open up the little document that you have in front of you, everything is written exactly as it sounds, except there are a few exceptions. When we encounter a C, it's always going to make a ch sound. When you encounter an S, it's always going to make a s sound, unless that S has a line above or below it, in which case it'll make a sh sound. Okay? So if you look at the opening line at the top of the first page, we have Om Namah Shivaya Gurave. So just read and say that out loud. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave. Very good. And now as we encounter the C's, we know they're chas. So Sachidananda Murtaye. Sachidananda Murtaye. Good. And here in this next line, we've got a couple of S's with marks above and below them, which make the words Nishprapanchaya Shantaya. Nishprapanchaya Shantaya. Niralambhaya Tejase. Niralambhaya. Okay, so it's sounding really good. I don't think you have anything to worry about. The reason why we're going to chant this is a practice. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it's actually to your advantage that you are not a native Sanskrit scholar or speaker. The perfection of yoga is actually in the recitation of the scriptures. This is the idea held inside the yoga tradition, because it's a focusing technique. You've got to be able to read, the breath has to be proper, you're making sound, which down-regulates the body, the eyes are one-pointed. And so there's posture, there's breath, there's mantra, there's meditation. It's all here when we recite the scriptures. And what we're singing to is the energy that makes all of this possible, the Kundalini Shakti, the great goddess. So we'll chant together. We'll sing the opening mantras. If you haven't ever done this before and you just want to read along or listen, of course, you're most welcome. But we'll sing the opening mantras. You'll hear the melody for the Kundalini Stavaha. We'll chant it together, and then we'll get into the dharana. Does that sound nice? Okay? Okay. And we'll do it every week, forever and ever, as long as the Soul Pod lets me.
Shivaya Gurave Sachitananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase Nityanandaya Gurave Shishya Samsara Harine Bhakta Karyaika Dehaya Namaste Chitsadatmane Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Virvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Nityam chetasi bhavyate bhuvi kada sadvakya sancharini Mam patu priyadasa bhava kapadam sangataye sridhara Gatre tvam swayamadi deva vanitati natidinam vashu Raktam bhamrita chandrika lipimai sarpakritir nidrita Jagrat kurma samashrita bhagavati Kamham samalogaya Mam surganda kuganda dosha jaditam Vedani karyanvitam Swalpa swamala chandra koti kiraner nityam shariram guru Siddharthi nija dosha vitsthalagatir vyajiyate vidyaya Kundalya gulamarga mukta nagari maya kumarga shriha Yadyavam bhajati prabhata samaye madhyana kale tava Nityam yakula kundali japapada bhojam sasido bhave Vaivakasha chaturdaleti vimale vancha phalonmulake Nityam samprati nityatheha gatita shankaitita bhavita Vidya kundalamani svajanani maya kriya bhavyate Yaste siddha kulodbhave pranati visat stotra kaishambhuve Dhata shankar mohini tribhuvana chaya padurgamini संसारादि महासुख प्रहरणी तत्रास्थिता योगिनी सर्वग्रन्थि विभेदिनी स्वभुजग सूक्ष्मातिसूक्ष्मा परा ब्रह्म ज्ञान विनोदिनी कुलपति व्याघातिनी भाव्यते वन्दे श्रीकुलकुण्डलीं त्रिवलिभिः साङ्गे स्वयंभूप्रियम् प्राविष्टं परमर्गच्छेत चपलं बालाबलानिष्कलम् या देवी परिपाति वेदवदन सम्भाविनी तापिनी इष्टानं शिरसि स्वयं भुवनिदं सम्भावयामि क्रियाम् वाणी कोटिमृदङ्गनादमदना निःश्रेणिकोटिध्वनिः प्राणैषिरसराशिपूलकमलो लासैकपूर्णानः आशादोद्भवं मेघराजिजनिता ध्वन्ताननस्तायिनी माता सा परिपातु सूक्ष्मपट्टगां योगिनं शङ्करी त्वामाश्रित्य नरा व्रजन्ति सहसा वैकुण्ठकैलासयोरानन्दैकविलासिनीं शशिटाडन्दाननं कारणम् माता श्रीकुलकुण्डले प्रियकाले काली कालोटीपने तत्स्थानं प्रणमामि भद्रवन्दिते आमोदरा त्वं वशो कुण्डले शक्तिमर्गस्तः स्तत्रष्टकामः फलम् या पतिप्रातरुताया स योगी भावति ध्रुवम् क्षणादिवाहि पथेन कविनतोर्भवेदिह पवित्रकुण्डली योगी प्रभालिनो भवेन्महान् इति ते खादितं नाथः कुण्डली कोमलं स्तवम् एतत्स्तत्र प्रसादेन देवेषु गुरुगेष्पतिः सर्वे देवासिदियुतः अस्यस्तत्र प्रसादतः द्विपरधं चिरञ्जीविः ब्रह्मा सर्वासुरेश्वरः ब्रह्मा सर्वासुरेश्वरः ब्रह्मा सर्वासुरेश्वरः सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
So if you just close your eyes and go inside, something happened. Normally in the outer world, in daily life, something happens, but the current of the mind and the energy of the senses, it's always flowing outward. So it can be hard to tell exactly what happened. And the mind flowing outward, it categorizes, it critiques, it judges, it plans, it puts things into tiny little boxes. It carves up life into a past, experiences that have happened, complex and nuanced. And we ponder, we worry, we dream about the future, which also contains an infinite amount of energy, an unimaginable possibility that extends out. But here now, with consciousness facing inward, we can experience what's going on for us here now. we can get close to reality, the way things are. Just feel how the light of your own awareness shines internally, and it allows you to perceive the flow, the breath of life within. There's a shimmer of subtle movement that expresses itself ceaselessly as the play of your own consciousness. The ebb and flow, the rise and fall of vrittis, vasanas, thoughts, emotions, sensations, memories, energy. Just make contact with aliveness, bringing awareness to aliveness. This might mean you have to walk yourself down out of your head as you make contact with the heart, Hridayakash, the vibrant center of your being. And maybe the chanting, it went well, maybe it went not so well. Something happened. Maybe you've identified it as pleasurable or uncomfortable or awkward, blissful. But just by bringing your awareness to what's going on here now, it all becomes workable. Maybe there are places where tension, stress, storeholds of frustration or anxiety or sorrow are present for you. Can you notice where those are in the world of your body, in the inner landscape? So just like you need a set of coordinates to locate yourself on a map, you can locate yourself here now just by noticing with curiosity and compassion. First, what am I feeling? Second, where am I feeling it? And as you become aware of what's going on here now, you can move towards the heart of things. You can make more intimate contact with the moment by offering the breath into whatever is at play here now. And the breath has a kind of potency, a kind of power that we can summon just by making the breath a little more conscious. So you can begin to breathe in a little bit deeper and breathe out a little bit longer. And as you pour your awareness, which is a form of your love, into the breath, you bring the breath to whatever's going on here now. Just a simple offering. You welcome yourself as you are, with respect and love, through this breath and our loving awareness. And so we'll just do that for a couple of minutes. Whatever shows up, whatever bubbles up and floats to the surface, you turn towards it. You welcome it in. You bring it the breath. And let the breath come in a little bit deeper Let the breath go out a little bit longer. And just like you brought awareness inside, start to walk awareness outside. Feel your breath. Feel your body. Feel your surroundings. Om Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramahamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramahamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramahamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om. We meditate on Hamsa, the secret power hidden in the breath. May that supreme energy illumine our hearts and minds for the sake of meditation. May the breath and its mantra, Hamsa, protect us. So when you're ready, you can blink your eyes open and come back into the room. So the essential technique of Vijnana Bhairava is the Hamsa meditation technique, which is why we're going to talk about it first. The text opens and it closes with this kind of contemplation of Hamsa, the energy and the mantra, the sound that underlies the breath. And so if we're going to contemplate Hamsa, which is the breath and its sound, we've got to know something about prana, which is energy. Prana means that which is infinitely everywhere. Prana is the energy or the breath of life. And it's always buzzing around. I don't know if you've noticed, but life is always in action. You know, stuff is always happening. It's always chaos. It's always unpredictability. And so too, the mind, animated by prana, is always moving, trying to make sense of life and predict outcomes and import past experience on present moment. And we're just trying to make sense of whatever might happen, because anything may happen. And that keeps us moving. And so, you know, it's interesting. We're moving through a life that's dynamic and unpredictable and crazy and beautiful and blissful and painful. And the thing that we really want is we want a little bit of peace. We want love, you know? We want a sense of belonging, of easefulness in our life, which seems like it could be opposed to the way life is. You know, life is always moving, but what we want is a place where we can finally feel at rest. We want certainty, you know? And so this is the way the mind is always, it's always set up. You know, the movements of the mind, to categorize, to put things into boxes, to say this is favorable, that's not favorable. And so the great work of the Tantric tradition and these meditation techniques is it takes us beyond dichotomizing beliefs. It takes us beyond thoughts of duality, pleasure and pain, us and them, past and future, good and bad, this and that, us and them, you know, and any pairs of opposites you can think of. And so how do we do it? Well, most of these dharanas, they have to do with bringing your awareness to something. And your awareness is the most powerful thing in the world. It's a force of love. And I don't know if you've ever been in love with someone or something, but everything becomes really interesting about somebody when you love them. It's not enough to know that they like a cup of coffee. You learn exactly how they like it, you know, light and sweet, you know? Love is in the details. Love is appreciating nuance. And it's seeing the best in someone. It's seeing the good in them. It's seeing the God in them. So what happens when we put our awareness inside of anything, you know, and search for the good, the divine energy, the energy that's always at play? And how do we use that awareness of the energy to take us beyond good and bad, us and them, this and that? Well, the essential technique that happens in Vijnana Bhairava is this meditation of Hamsa, awareness of the breath. You see? And there's this Vedic story that says when a baby's born, the first thing a baby cries out is kohum, kohum, which means who am I, who am I? And right away, even with that first outcry, the breath has rushed in with the answer, but it's so subtle you wouldn't know. And so I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you pay attention to your breath, the breath has a sound. as it comes in and as it goes out, you know? And it's so subtle, you might miss it. And it's always going on. And so it's like a precious jewel that's been hidden in plain sight. And when we start to fall in love with the breath, the treasure of that breath, the energy of that breath, and its power, it starts to stand revealed. You know, we can seize hold of it. And as we start to bring our awareness to the breath, we notice that the breath isn't just energy, it's also has a subtle aspect, a still point, you see? And this is where the magic moment is of working with the Hamsa technique. As you pour your awareness, which is a form of your love, into the breath, you start to feel there's more going on than just in and out, inhale and exhale. What you start to discover, just like music, there's not just notes or sounds that are being played, there's space between the notes, and we call that a rest, you know? And just the silence that frames those musical notes allows us to appreciate the melody. It's actually the silence that frames the notes that makes each melody unique, you know? We carve it up in that way. And so too, there's a little bit of a rest, a silent moment, a dynamic still point at the end of each inhalation and at the end of each exhalation. But it's so quiet, it's so gentle, it's so mysterious. Most of the time we don't appreciate it. We don't give our love to the breath, which is almost, absurd. That this thing is so fragile and so beautiful. It sustains us and supports us and gives us power and allows all things to be possible. But we just don't pour our love into it. We're so busy spending our energy outward. And so we're pouring our nectar back into our own being when we love the breath. And it's when we turn consciousness inward and we fall in love with the breath and start to notice the tiny spaces between the breath, something remarkable starts to happen, as you cast your awareness into the tiny pause at the top of every inhalation and the tiny pause at the bottom of every exhalation, you'll notice that moment is still. The music is quiet. There's a rest there, but it's filled with energy. It's filled with possibility. That the end of an inhalation, it's fullness itself. And then the breath starts to flow out. And at the end of that exhalation, there's emptiness, but it's pregnant with possibility, you see? And so in the spaces between the breath, we can feel there's a still point, but there's also life, And it starts to teach us about dissolving pairs of opposites. We can have peace and energy, and we can flow with life and still hold on to our center of gravity, the still point, the peace, So we're dyeing our consciousness in some way by dipping it into the space between the breaths. And the more we're able to do that, when we start to flow with the breath, when we're with life in motion, we can hold on to the still point. And that gives us an incredible resilience, an incredible ability to be with life and its diversity. But you're still holding on to this thing that's the same, this underlying field, this stillness, this quiescence, this power and energy. But it comes from falling in love with the breath and noticing its nuance, noticing the silence that allows us to enjoy the sound. And then you can revel in the movement of the breath or the still point of the breath. You can be with pleasure as much as you can be with pain then. You can be with the inner world as much as you can be with the outer world. And the breath becomes this actual dialogue in that way. When consciousness only flows outward, it's like a monologue. Healing happens in dialogue. And so in any relationship, if you want something to change, there has to be good communication. Pouring awareness into the breath coming in and the breath going out, it's the loving dialogue, the loving exchange between the inner world and the outer world, between us and them. And it's really consummated in the still points between the breath, right? That's when lover and beloved get to meet. And that's the dialogue of Vijnanabhairava Tantra. Shiva and Shakti, they've interrupted their love play because Shakti has a question. The goddess Bhairavi, she says, what's the way that I can come to be one with you? Which is ironic, because they've just been in intimate contact in this scripture. They're literally making love, and the lovemaking gets interrupted by a question. How do I become one with you? But she already knows. She was just doing it, And in the same way, too, Shakti is a stand-in for us, the goddess Bhairavi. She's asking the question for the sake of us. We're actually born of life. We're born from life. We move towards life. We're born in fullness. We live in fullness. We eventually merge back into fullness. But we just forgot for a second. There is doubt. There is questioning. And then all these dharanas get explained. It's an intermission in the love play. All these meditation practices, they're born out of love so that we can experience wholeness and oneness again. And the text ends where they just get back to love play. They just get back to the dance, which is amazing. So there's questions, there's doubts, but there's practices to move us back to oneness. And this awareness of the breath is essential. Yeah? So, and it's cyclical, the breath. What comes up for me when I feel the breath is that like the inhalation has this rising energy. We expand. That's like the excitement of spring. The tiny pause at the top of every inhalation, it's like the fullness of summer. It's like the glory, The exhalation, like the decline of autumn. There's less energy. And then the pause at the end of every exhalation, it's like the stillness, the quiet, barren cold of winter. And when we are stuck in duality with the mind, there's no cycle. It's just bouncing between two pairs of opposites, in and out, us and them, pleasure, pain, past, future, this, that, endlessly. But this thinking and feeling of ourselves as a circle, which is much more the way energy is, infinite, eternal, that puts us back in the appropriate relationship with life where we can move back to intimacy. You see? So, okay. What's come up for you? Questions? Comment? Yes?
With the breath, through the nose,
yes.
Some people say exhale through the nose as well as inhale, but
Mm-hmm.
do you...
Yes. In this particular technique, we're trying to get prana balanced in and out. And so the idea is the more you have a space open, the more prana leaks out. So this is why you see kind of yogic ideas about, if you're familiar with Hatha Yoga, why yogis are always applying things like Mula Bandha or Uddiyana Bandha or Jalandhara Bandha too, because you also have prana that's leaking out of your anus and out of your abdomen and out of everything. So the idea is, what we're trying to do here is work with the breath in such a way where we're losing as little amount of prana as possible. So for meditative techniques, especially where consciousness is turning inward, we're always going to work with exhaling through the nose. And because we're trying to feel the fullness of the inner space so we can match the energy and the dynamism and the volume and grandeur of the outer world. So keep kind of holding the energy and that sense inward. It's more readily available when we breathe in and out through the nose. Great question. Shall I I'll chant the dharana and then let's try it for a moment and then we'll share our experience. How does that sound? Okay, that makes sense. All right, so this is the second technique from Vijnana Bhairava. It says, Marun tantar bahirvapi vyadhyugmani vartanat bhairavya bhairavasya bhairavi vyajate vapuhu. All right, of the breath, the exhalation arising from the inner center of the body, the heart, hrit, there is a non-return for a split second from the dwadashanta. I'll explain in a second. And of the breath, the inhalation arising from the outer space, there is non-return for a split second from the center of the body. If one fixes their mind steadily at these 2 points of pause, one will find that Bhairavi, the Shakti, the goddess, the energy of life, who is the essential form of Bhairava, Shiva, consciousness, loving awareness, is manifest at those 2 points. Okay, so there's a quirky measurement we've got to know before we give this a shot. And Vijnana Bhairava works often with a measurement point that's called Dwadashanta. This is a technical term. It means 12 finger whiffs. And so your energy body is thought to extend just that amount away from you. So you have 4, 8, 12. If you just stack it up, it's mysteriously right at the center of your chest. There's something going on in here. There's an energy, there's aliveness. And so the idea is when we're working with Dwadashanta, 12 finger widths down and out. Yeah? That there's an innermost heart, the energy inside, and there's an outer heart, the heart of life. And just with proprioception, we have a kind of sphere of influence that we've got. It doesn't extend too much beyond the extension of our arms and legs, So you can say, like, this is where me stops. And so just beyond that, there's everything else. All the stuff that confuses us and terrifies us and arouses us, it's all just beyond that little step. And so when you start to bring your awareness to that point, and rather than being attached or averse to it, you just welcome it in, and the breath comes into the heart, and the breath goes out of the heart, and you're with that movement, and casting your awareness into the tiny pause at the inner heart, being comfortable there, and being with the heart of life, that's a alchemical moment, okay? So this is the Dwadashanta point. So we're going to work with the inner heart, and we're going to feel, visualize, or imagine the breath in the inner heart space and the outer heart space. Does that make sense? Okay, so how to do a dharana. The first thing you want to do is establish a comfortable seat. I always like to think of the posture for meditation. It's not a hostage situation, okay? You're actually doing this because you want to take care of yourself, so you should be relaxed. Yeah, you should be relaxed. And the way that we can relax is actually, playing with paradoxes, to energize the spine. When the spine is elongated, the rest of the body can soften around the natural intelligence of that architecture of your spine. The Shiva Sutras, another tantric text, they say when someone's established in the straight back posture, it's easy to become immersed in the heart. And that's where the gold is, that's where the nectar is. So let's just try the dharana for a second. But first we've got to make contact with the heart, Hridayakash, the space of the heart. And you've got to bring your brilliance, your creative capacity to these dharanas. Your mind has a kind of superpower. Normally you use it to creatively imagine all the bad things that might happen to you, or daydream about the future. But you're using that force for good now as you feel, visualize, or imagine the breath coming into the heart region at the center of the chest towards the heart. And as you exhale, you can feel, sense, or see the breath going out from the heart through the heart region at the center of the chest. Just feel the breath of the heart. And as you start to notice the breath, as you start to love the breath with your attention and your awareness, you can start to sense or hear the subtle sound the breath makes as it comes in, and the subtle sound the breath makes as it goes out. Just listen to the sound that the breath makes coming into the heart region at the center of the chest and flowing out from the innermost heart through the center of the chest. It's as if there's a swinging door in the center of your being, gently being blown open by the breeze of the breath. The breath comes in, and the breath goes out. The spontaneous, causeless song of the breath, coming in and going out. And as you take interest in the breath and its sound or its path of travel in and out of the heart, your love reveals the subtle anatomy of the breath. The breath comes into the heart region at the center of the chest, and at the end of that inhalation, there's a tiny pause to rest in the heart. And then the breath flows out through the heart region, the center of the chest, and at the end of that exhalation, there's a pause, a dynamic still point, a chance to be with all of life. Start to notice the space between the breaths. You don't have to manipulate that space or control it at all. Just notice that it's there. Shine the light of your loving awareness on the tiny pause at the top of each inhalation and the tiny pause at the end of each exhalation. Don't be concerned with whether the breath is deep or shallow. Just keep pouring your awareness, your love, into the breath. Be with the breath as it is. Listen to the unique sound of the song of your life, the song of your heart. As the breath comes in, pause. As the breath goes out, pause. Start to enter into the space between the breaths and just let the practice absorb you. Just notice what the practice puts you in touch with, what happened. And slowly walk your awareness outside. Take a big breath in. Take a long breath out. Feel the breath, feel your body, feel your surroundings. And when you're ready, blink your eyes open and come back into the room. Okay, so what happened? What happened for you? Can you share your experience? This is a worthwhile endeavor, you know? And so you could share your experience, you could ask a question, you could let me know about a tension or a block where you struggled, because chances are other people are having that too. And so the idea is we're tuning up our meditation toolbox by doing this. So who wants to share?
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I couldn't get out of the head. I didn't find any meditative state.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What would you? So thoughts.
Yeah, thoughts. Yeah, stuck with thoughts. I went to stuff I left at home. Didn't pack that for tomorrow. Or something down the beach.
Yeah.
Didn't get there.
This is actually this is a great share. Actually, this is the main point. You know, it's like, what the hell do we do with the mind? You know, because most people feel like you've got to somehow stop the mind, in meditation. And in this particular tradition, that's not the viewpoint, that you're trying to transcend thought. What we're trying to do is just feel ourselves as alive. And what you did when you were aware of the flurry of thoughts going on is you were actually experiencing your own aliveness. Yeah, that same energy that animates the breath, it animates the mind. And this tradition, it elevates it to the level of the supreme. It calls it chitti, the goddess consciousness. Yeah? And so thinking is a great thing. You know? It's about your relating to the thoughts. That creates either tension or relaxed or flow state, you see? And so what we're trying to do in this kind of practice, if the mind starts to do its thing, you just have a kind of sense of devotion or interest or worship towards the mind. Oh, this is the glory of being alive. Look how creative the mind is. Look at all the things that it could come up with. It could spin all these stories. It could create all these possibilities, these narratives. And you know, I was just talking with someone earlier, and we were talking about you could sit down in a theater and you could watch a great drama, and you could get swept up in the drama of the play, but you also have a sense of ease and relaxation because you know it's a play. And this particular tradition it talks about Chit Shakti Vilas. This is all the play of consciousness. You know, this is just the great drama of the mind and its power. And so you could sit back like an audience member and just watch the mind. And it's such a compelling argument. It's such a compelling drama. Of course you get hooked in, but you can also remember that you're just watching. You're just with great interest. And the goal of a good meditator is actually, it's a word that is used to describe a good theater goer, a good audience member. And they say it's called Sahridaya. Abhinavagupta uses this word to describe a good tantric meditator. And it means one's available-hearted. So sometimes we close our heart down to the mind. You know, we don't want to be having certain thoughts. We're averse to certain things, or we're attached to certain outcomes. You know, or we get too invested in the drama, or we forget it's a play. And there's this kind of sweet spot. The Sahridaya is someone who's sitting in the audience knowing that it's a play, and they know enough about the art form where they can relish the art. Wow, this has excellent actors in it. The set is amazing. There's beauty here. And the drama of the play is convincing enough where you have buy-in, suspension of disbelief. And so there's a way you could be in a relationship or harmony with the mind where you can just let the mind have the play. You know, you could delight in the play rather than worry that you're not supposed to be having certain thoughts or whatever. It's all permissible here. This is the glory of Chitti. This is the goddess consciousness expressing herself in all of her forms. And you say that actually this movement of the mind is something sacred. Like the fact that you could remember that maybe you left your keys in the sand at the beach, thank God for that, you know? This is one of the reasons why we are the product of millions of years of evolution. We have this amazing capacity of the mind. This is the glory of the mind, and you could hold the mind in a kind of loving relationship. So it's good. Great. Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
Sure.
Yes, Bree.
It was quite polarized, where I just started focusing on my breath, and then I had this nice moment where I stopped. I guess my body's just breathing itself. To step back and not put any energy in or effort. But then I kind of go between two states where I'll have like some type of random image pop up, which makes no sense to me. And I think somebody was shining somebody's shoe. But as soon as I engage with it with my thought, I kind of come out of it a bit, and then I'm in my head. So then I try and not think. So then I never know what, never make sense of it. So then I try, and then I'll be like that for a while, and then I'll start to feel like I'm passing out, where I'm falling asleep, but I don't fall asleep. I can just feel like I'm on the edge of, I feel like I'm leaning like this, but I'm not. And I just then try and don't fall asleep. And then I'll kind of go in between these two places.
That's good. You're actually in a liminal space. That's actually a really good space to be.
A what space?
A liminal space. It's a space that's like not quite one thing and not quite another. And these are powerful points. Actually, the Hamsa meditation technique, the space between the breaths, is to worship liminal spaces. Classically, also, yogic practice happens at dawn, at noon, at sunset, at midnight in certain places, And the idea is that turning point is actually, like, meditation itself is a kind of sacred liminal space. We're not quite awake, we're not quite sleeping. The body is at rest, but consciousness is luminous and awake. And the more we can make friends with that liminal space, that kind of between time, that's where the pure power of the self is. It's a good space. Everything else that's happening, it's just like road signs as you're driving down the highway. And you just let them keep passing by. But to make friends with that kind of between space, they call it the madhya. And that's another word that the scriptures use to talk about the space between the breaths. It means the middle point. It also means the heart. And it's poetically referred to as a luminous doorway. So it's a space to enter into more fully. Yeah, so don't worry about falling asleep. It's actually a really good thing. And I want to let you know that Rabia says, hello, Brie, with lots of heart emojis. So Rabia's here, and she sends her love. People are asking about you, Rabia. Anyone else who wants to share their experience before we chant? And then we'll try the practice for a longer period. Maha?
You mean the one time I don't say anything?
Well, we can't break tradition now, can we?
I didn't say anything. I think the song just said that.
What's your experience of the practice like?
I remember once, and I was hoping you would say it for new people who were, when do we start shaving their heads, by the way?
Oh, that's after.
You once said that the first thing a baby does when it's born is hum.
It cries out, who am I, who am I? And hamsa, the breath, which means I am that, rushes in.
Right, and then the last thing a person does when they die
They exhale.
is they exhale.
Yeah.
So that the breath marks, the hamsa actually marks the life.
That's right.
The whole body of the life. And so there's kind of a,
It's one giant breath.
so we're kind of orienting in this moment the birth, the first breath and the last breath. And
Yeah.
the first breath and the last breath and the first breath and the last breath. And I love that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
You said that during a yoga class once many years ago, and I'm like, oh good, he's going to say that. And then he didn't say
No.
that. So I'm just pointing out where you went wrong.
That's great. No, and there's something about that. Hum means I am, and sa means that. And so what does that do to the mind if you say I am that to everything that arises? The beautiful stuff, the painful stuff, the stuff we want to happen, the stuff we don't want to happen. If you pour your awareness into the sound of the breath makes, and you use the breath to wake up, to remind you that there's nothing you aren't, you can feel yourself with life in a very deep way. And you can make the most of this one breath that we've got, this one life that we've got. And we're not going to take it for granted. So we're going to pay attention to it. We're going to give our love to the breath. And that's a radical yes, a radical affirmation. I'm not going to take this life for granted. I'm not, because it could, if we zoom out enough, it's just one breath. The inhalation when we're born and the exhalation when we die. What happens in between, that's up to you. So let's inquire into that space between the breath. Let's make friends with it. Let's feel the energy and the possibility and the beauty and the divinity that's there in the spaces. And then we can unfold ourselves from that space. Yes. Very good. Okay. Poet Saint Kabir says, I'm not repeating the mantra on my beads, nor am I repeating it with my tongue. God himself is repeating my mantra while I sit in a very relaxed manner and listen to it. So normally mantra repetition is done very forcefully. It's done with the mouth, with the tongue, with the mala. We're counting the mantras. To think of the breath as the mantra that chants you. It's the prayer that is spontaneously arising. The breath breathes the body. The breath is the gift that's continuously being given. And so we're taking the advice from Kabir and we're just letting ourselves be breathed. Yeah? Not a lot of strain or effort in the technique, but just this allowing, this appreciating, this being with. And that's the sweet spot for a meditation technique. not like rigid, forceful concentration. You're not going to bang your head so hard against the breath that you finally have enlightenment. That's not the way this works. Okay?
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
It's been really profound for me, coming from more of a bead sort of background, where it's very vocal and
That's right.
very rhythmic, and there's some really enjoyable components. But with your stuff on Insight Time, which is only 1 or 2, it's just that combination of breath and mantra. And at certain points you might be on the mantra for 5 minutes, and then you just drop out of that for 10 minutes, and you just sit.
Yeah.
So it's just that ebbing and flowing. It's really profound because you get both.
Yeah, the breath is something you can always grab a hold of, you know? And so we can always take refuge in the breath. You don't know what to do? Bring your awareness to the breath. Great inspiration lies there. It's true. Like, inspiration, like we have exhalation and inspiration, you know? And also, like, good ideas, they happen on the inhale. And coincidentally enough, in spiritus, I think it is, when we have inspiration, we're with God, with the Spirit. It comes on the in-breath. And so, you know, enlightenment, love, peace, contentment, the self, it's as near as your next breath. We just got to make ourselves available to the breath.
And the only breath, see, you asked me to talk.
Yes!
Now I stop.
I'm so glad.
Problem.
I was saying someone should record this, and she's like, no, I have to think of something to say.
It's already being recorded. People on Zoom are watching.
But the only breath that matters is this breath. The last breath doesn't matter, and the next breath hasn't happened yet. So the breath has such capacity to really ground us in this moment.
Yes.
That breath is the gateway.
I really like the idea of life being one big breath, but also every breath being a mini death.
Yeah.
And that every
And a mini birth.
A mini birth and a mini death.
That's
Like every single one, you get the chance to breathe in fresh air and be renewed, I guess.
Yeah. So much has been said about the breath now. And you have so one of these ideas hopefully has kindled your heart in some way. That's the idea that you should work with when we meditate. Because like grace has thrown you a life raft in inspiration, in that aha moment, and intrigue and curiosity, in arousal, you know. This is the tantric way to meditate. It's like improvisational in some way. So you take these good ideas, the ones that light up the heart and make you appreciate the breath, and then you just experiment with those in the inner space. That's the real dharana, not the words that are being chanted in Sanskrit that you can't understand, but just feeling the breath and its movement and what's possible inside of that. Any one of these ideas could take you all the way, okay? To get us more receptive to that, we're going to spend some time chanting Om Namah Shivaya. We're going to chant it in a meditative, melodious way. We'll do it for about 10 minutes, and then we'll sit quietly for about 15 minutes and just appreciate the breath together and not take it for granted. Okay, so repeat after me. Say Om, Namah, Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. This is the mantra that Baba Muktananda calls the great redeeming mantra. That it allows tension to melt away. It honors who we are at the deepest level as being loving, expanded awareness. Shiva is who we are without our tension, without our story. And so to honor this life we have and the few breaths that we have on this earth, and to spend that time making sacred sound, it's a very noble thing. Yeah? So we'll chant Om Namah Shivaya together continuously. Once you get your mouth and your mind around the melody, you can just join in and sing with us continuously. And then at the end, we'll sit silently. We'll meditate. So here we go.
Shiva
So you can refresh the posture for meditation, just so the body can be more at rest. Maybe it means you renegotiate the posture, you change shapes completely, you lay down, whatever you need to do so the spine can be elongated. And so one of the ways that we could think of this meditative time is this idea of sahridaya, or becoming available-hearted. We're pouring our love into the breath as we work with the Hamsa mantra, the sound of the breath of life coming in and going out. Just working with the breath in a way that expands and uplifts the heart. Just not taking the breath for granted. Maybe you choose to work with the dharana that we explored today, which is to work with the space between the breaths, the madhya, the middle point, the tiny pause at the top of each inhalation, and the tiny pause at the bottom of each exhalation. Bringing your awareness into the heart. Just relish the breath. Let the breath breathe the body. We'll meditate in this way for some time. Just feel the body as it breathes. Feel how the body loves its breath. And as you pour the love that you love with into the breath, the in-breath comes in a little bit deeper, and the out-breath goes out a little bit longer. Breathing in deep and breathing out long. And notice what the practice put you in touch with, what the quality of your inner space is, and whatever feeling of goodness or openness, relaxation or energy is there, just feel that deeply. Worship it with your awareness. Feel yourself as that. And just feeling your own goodness, your own power, your own wisdom. Resolve silently, inwardly, to nourish contact with the self, with the heart, with this incredible wisdom virtue inside you. The real art and practice of yoga is to return to this place time and time again whenever you lose touch. And it's a homecoming, it's a return. And place the palms together at the heart space. And allow the thumbs to touch the heart. And we'll chant our closing mantra together. If you don't know it, you can just Om with us 3 times. Om Shanti 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 Sadguru Nath Maharaj Ki Jai. So let your transition back to the open-eyed state be really gentle, really sweet, so you can try and preserve the state of your practice, this contact with the self or the heart. And if you have any questions, we can always chat. It's been an honor sharing this time and this space with you. And we'll get together weekly, should you choose. We'll get together weekly and we'll explore all these variety of doorways into meditation. And there's all kinds of dharanas in the Vijnanabhaidava. There's practices that focus on bliss, and we'll eat chocolate one time. Swaying, shaking, dancing, meditations on the void, precious memories, all kinds of things. There's an innumerable amount of techniques here in this text that we'll explore together. So we'll just keep exploring, and it'll be fun, and it'll be experimental, and we'll come together in satsang, and there's nothing greater than that. So thank you, and I'll see you soon. Sakrinath Maharaj Ki Jai.
Thank you, Nara.